Tolani gave Ego's dress to her mother, and Mrs. Williams charmed the dress and told her to return it to Ego. Tolani returned the dress and she deceived her to wear it immediately, so as to make sure that their plans worked. The night that followed, Ego started having nightmares. Mrs. Williams' mother, Madame Ishubi, was a very cruel and ruthless, powerful and fair traditional spiritualist. She uses her spiritual powers to hurt others and doesn't care who she harms. Everyone fear her. She destroys people's lives, controlling men's mind, snatching people's husband, seizing people's property and land because she can. She has a very bad reputation. No one dares move close to her or query her. Being near her feels unsettling, like being surrounded by darkness. People really fear her cruelty and evil deeds. Ego in her room, looking so worried. She felt different. She knew something was wrong, but couldn't place it. She wasn't just herself on that particular day. Since Tolani had shifted her aim, she moved far away from Ego, and still Ego hasn't made another friend. Since then, Ego felt the distance between them was because they now stay in different hostels. Unknown to her that Tolani intentionally moved far away from her. The following night again, Ego had another nightmare that was very scary. She kept having the same nightmare over and over again that same night. She woke up screaming and sweating and was getting more scary for her. The following week was their test week, so she needed to take her mind off the scary dream and started her early morning reading before she prepared for class that day. She noticed that her assimilation was slow. She was worried and often gets absent-minded easily. As she got to school campus that day, the media department shared the bulletin for the week, which states that all the students should leave the school premises starting from tomorrow because the school is going through some quick restructuring and the lecturers are going to be busy with meetings and seminars. So the school authority decided that it's best for all the students to vacate the school for a period of 2 weeks. All through the lectures that day, Ego was absent-minded and could not even recall one thing that her lecturer said in class that day. She knew this wasn't normal. She felt so empty. Tolani, on the other hand, kept avoiding Ego. She still carries an unexplainable envy and jealousy for her. Ego got to the hostel and started packing her stuff. She felt a bit relieved, thinking that the change of environment would lift her mood and make her feel better. At least the 2 weeks break would be relaxing for her, because a part of her still blames everything on stress. She woke up early the next day and drove home. On her way home, she got absent-minded again that she had a terrible accident and the back of her car was vandalized. When she got home and her mother saw her car, she screamed and checked her properly to see if she was okay. She said, "I am fine, Mommy." Thankfully, she was fine, not even a scratch on her body. Immediately, her mother called her father. He came home to see her daughter, Ego. They both calmed her down and made sure she wasn't left alone, just to be sure she was fine. Her mother insisted that she would sleep in her bedroom that night. At about 3 a.m., she woke up screaming and sweating. Her mother jumped up from her sleep. Ego said, "Not again." Her mother said, "What's wrong?" And Ego said, "Nightmares." Her mother said, "Don't tell me you've been having nightmares for a while now." Ego said, "Yes." That she felt it was cause of school stress, but from the look of things, it obviously isn't school stress. Ego's mother exclaimed, "Nightmare? After this terrible accident, we need to be proactive." Her mother insists they pray. So they started praying seriously that night for almost an hour before they both dozed off. In the morning, when she woke up, she felt a bit better. They had their morning prayers, and her mother instructed the chef to make Ego a special breakfast, claiming she needs all the pampering she can get, that she is very stressed. Ego sat down on her favorite corner in her room, close to the window. She peeped out from her window. She could easily see the beautiful view of their large pool, and she suddenly just dozed off again. It was like a trance, and she saw three old women wearing white clothes, saying, "You gave one of your belongings to someone that meant harm to you. You are tied to darkness. Break free before it's too late. Now is the time to break free. Reclaim what is yours." She jumped up and rushed to her mother. She was scared, so she explained everything to her mother. She was shaking uncontrollably out of fear. Her mother was scared to her bones but didn't show it. Her mother held her hand and they went into the room and started another round of prayers. This lightning from nowhere, followed by thunder and heavy rainfall, just started immediately. It was such a heavy and stormy rain, and they prayed and prayed and prayed. They wept and wailed. At some point, they both lost their voice. It got to a point that they had no words. All they did was cry to God. Finally, the rain stopped, and Hagar had this peace from within. Her mother said, "I feel this peace." Hagar replied, "Me too." Hagar leaned into her mother's arms, and they both felt better. Hagar's mom asked Hagar if she had had breakfast today. She said no. Her mom said, "We are fasting, and not just today, we are doing 7 days." She said, "My love, are you sure you're strong enough to do it?" And Hagar replied, "Yes, mommy." Her mom replied, "Don't worry. After today, I will continue. You can stop. I don't want you to fall sick." Hagar insisted that they would both fast for 7 days. Hagar started getting better as the days progressed. No nightmares. She felt like her normal self again. She could read, concentrate, and assimilate. Hagar's mom was practically by her side all through the 7 days. Hagar said to her mom, "Mom, did you know that when I started having those nightmares, at some point, I started forgetting things?" Her mom replied, "It was that serious?" She said, "I couldn't even assimilate." Her mom replied, "It is over by God's grace." What goes around, they say, comes around. At about 2:15 a.m., Tolani screamed from her bedroom, and her mom rushed to her. She said, "The dress." Her mom said, "Which dress?" She said, "She wore the golden dress, and a lion was chasing her." Her mother said, "What golden dress are you talking about?" And she said, "Hagar's golden dress, the one I collected from her." Her mother said, "Calm down. It's just a dream. Go back to sleep." So she went back to sleep. Later that day, Tolani and her mom were both watching their favorite Indian series. When Tolani said, "Why did Nepa take the light?" Her mother said, "Which Nepa?" That was when Tolani realized that she couldn't see again. She screamed, "Mommy, everywhere is dark." Her mom said, "Under these bright lights?" Tolani said, "Mommy, I am serious. I am not joking. Mommy, please call Timileyin." So they called Timileyin, who is her twin brother, a medical student in the state university. Tolani explained what she was feeling to Timileyin. Timileyin said, "What you describe is blindness." Tolani said, "So, am I blind?" And he replied, "It could be temporary. Just try to close your eyes and sleep. When you wake up tomorrow, your vision should be back." Tolani was scared but tried to sleep, and she later dozed off. She still couldn't sleep at some point. She kept on having nightmares. Still, she hasn't regained her sight. She busted out crying. Her noise woke her mother up, and she came to Tolani. Tolani told her mother that she still can't see. Early in the morning, they drove to Ilupeju village, where Mrs. Williams' mom lives. On getting there, Madam Ishubi said, I see forces beyond my powers. What did you do? And they explained. Madam Eshubi said, at least you should learn from me, my daughter. Why did you do this? These people's power supersede hers. It's better you apologize. That is the only way out. Before they got back home, Timileyin was already waiting for them back home. Tolani heard Timileyin's voice and she started crying, saying, "It was mommy." Oh. Tolani started confessing to her brother everything that happened. Timileyin was so disappointed. All he said was, "What is the way forward?" Tolani said, "We have to apologize." Timileyin said, "So what are we waiting for?" As Ego sighted Tolani, she said, "Oh, Tolani, it's so good to see you, Tolani." And she said, "Tolani, are you okay? Why are you walking like this? What's wrong? What's the problem? And why is Timileyin holding your hands?" And Timileyin whispered, "She can't see." Ego said, "How? Why? When? What happened?" Tolani started crying. And Mrs. Williams said, "Ego, just forgive us." Ego said, "What do you mean, Mrs. Williams?" Tolani, not even wasting time, started confessing all that she did with her mother. Ego screamed, "Oh my goodness!" Ego's mother was sleeping and she heard her scream and she rushed down. On getting there, she sighted Mrs. Williams and immediately Ego's mom recognized Mrs. Williams. Mrs. Williams, out of shame, couldn't speak at first. Ego told her mom everything Tolani said. Ego's mom was so shocked. Mrs. Williams replied, "It was all your fault. I wanted Ebuka, but he wanted you. When I realized Ego was your daughter, I got jealous and angry. That was why I did all that I did. And now I regret my actions. Please forgive me." And Ego said, "So because you wanted my dad, you did all this to me? I thought your daughter and I were best friends. How could you? Tolani, even you betrayed me. How could you do this to me? You were like a sister to me." Ebuka walked in and recognized Mrs. Williams immediately. He was lost. They explained everything to him. Ebuka said, "But I made it known to you those years that it was Lade I wanted. You said it jokingly and I told you our beliefs are different. Your mom was a fierce spiritualist back then. I told you it won't work." Lade interjected, "So this was why you went cold on me those years, eh?" That explains everything. Mrs. Williams and Tolani were crying and asking for forgiveness. Tolani and her parents said, "Why are we not to forgive you? All you need to do is to seek for God's forgiveness." And they left Ego's parents home in shame. Days turned into months, months turned into years. Tolani's situation was still the same. For Tolani to complete her degree, she had to move to a uni that supported visually impaired learning. It really stressed Mrs. Williams' finances. She had to go for more loans, adding to her unending debt. After all the loan and everything Mrs. Williams went through, Tolani graduated with a bad grade after she had 2 extra years. Timileyin, on the other hand, graduated but became frustrated because after he graduated as an ophthalmologist, he became the joke of the town. People always teasing him, saying, "You that you can't treat your sister. Is it me that you want to use for practical?" And Timileyin had to move to a different country to better his career because he wasn't making any money. He couldn't earn a living. Mr. Williams ended up having stroke and Parkinson's disease because of his alcohol abuse. Mrs. Williams' financial situation became worse. She was in huge debt and also dealing with high blood pressure. Her high blood pressure progressed into stroke. Madam Ishubi, Tolani's grandmother, eventually ran mad when she tried to charm the village priest. Ego graduated with first class, and few months later, she got scholarship for her master program abroad. Her parents bought her a beautiful house to celebrate her success. The end. Guys, please kindly remember to like and also subscribe if this is your first time. Please do not make it the end. And hope you learned a lot of valuable lessons from this story. And I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye. See you next time.